And I want to welcome everybody to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I'm Susanna and I'm joining you from Espoo, Finland, and I will be your host today. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, recovery, and Buddhist recovery, and I facilitate both 8-step recovery meetings and mindfulness-based addiction recovery courses here in Finland. And I'm also a member of the Buddhist Recovery Network board. And everybody celebrating May Day, I want to wish you happy May Day because in Finland, it's one of the biggest drinking events of the year. So especially if you're from Finland or some country that celebrates it by drinking and you're here sober, welcome. That's great thing. So today we have a new academy teaching offered by Mary Stankavich. The pronouns are she and her. So thanks for the offering and joining us today. And the topic for the teaching today is letting in the joy, and I will be telling a little bit more about that in a while. So thanks everyone for being here and being part of our community today. All of our teachings are given freely, and we are blessed with some amazing teachers who have experience on the cushion, experience working with the body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by the way of Dharma. As we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support the ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link posted in the chat field. So thank you, Silasiri, for posting that. Please be sure to indicate that your donation is for the Academy, and we sincerely thank you for your generosity. And then to the main point of the evening, I'd like to introduce our guest teacher for tonight. Mary Stankavage has practiced meditation, yoga, and cultivated a spiritual practice for, I guess, 36 years. Did I see yesterday in Facebook, 36 years? So maybe little kind of like applause or waving hands for Mary for 36 years. Wow, that's amazing. And in 2009, was empowered to teach Buddha Dharma. Mary is based in Los Angeles area and teaches classes, retreats, and does individual mentoring. She has taught mindfulness at recovery centers, has co-facilitated Year to Live groups since 2008, and has had a weekly Dharma class for over a decade. Mary is part of the Guiding Teachers Council at Inside Community of the Desert and a founding teacher at Meditation Coalition. Mary completed the Buddhist chaplaincy program at the Sati Center and served as volunteer chaplain at Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center. She also served as executive director of the Mind Body Awareness Project from 2016 to 2018. In taking the practice of the cushion, Mary is honored to serve on the board of CLUE, Clergy and Laity United for Economic, sorry, English is my second language, okay. Economic justice. Along with teaching, she continues to investigate what it means to live with an undefended heart. That sounds so nice. Fun fact, Mary has a master's degree from UCLA and worked as an archaeologist in Syria. More info can be found from her website, marystankavich.org. We will post these links to the chat later on. And I said before, the topic of the teaching is letting in the joy. Our practice and our recovery are often about recognizing our struggles and where we are stuck. Although it's necessary that we do this, sometimes we miss the joy that is also present in our lives. Joy is one of the 7 awakening factors and an important experience on the path to liberation. In this talk, Mary will offer suggestions on how to recognize and cultivate joy in your life even in the midst of difficulties. So Mary, with these words, I welcome you, and the stage or screen is all yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Susanna. What a delight to be with you. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. It's good to be with you. And so that was a lot of words. And your English is perfect, Susanna. I could not. When I did go to Finland and taught, I had to teach in English, and everyone understood me. If you came here, we would not understand Finnish. So bows to you, absolutely. So let's just sit for about 10 minutes just to arrive, just to settle in, to let the words settle. So let yourself find a posture. Let yourself let your eyes close if that's your practice. Let them be open. Whatever your posture is, allow yourself to arrive here. Taking a few moments to release your thoughts, release your expectations. So often we're caught in the future and the past. We're thinking about what we're going to be doing next or tomorrow. And see if you can put all that aside and just settle into an awareness of being here, of sitting. Feel yourself supported by the chair or the cushion, whatever foundation is beneath you. Allow yourself to be supported, feeling the weight of your body and the points of contact. Perhaps you feel your foot on the floor or your hand on your lap. Allow yourself to relax, softening those places in the body that may hold tension, may be tight, perhaps around the face, the jaw, relaxing the shoulders. Remembering that there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, there's simply the present time awareness of the experience of right here, right now. Allow your body to relax. Allow your mind to relax. Let yourself open in gentle awareness right here. The gentleness of the in-breath and the out-breath. The gentleness of resting on your seat. Let yourself be. And also aware that the mind will most likely wander. When you recognize you've wandered away, gently release the thought. Return to the present time awareness and relax into the now. You can't do this wrong, so release any judgment as well. Relax the body, relax the mind. Let yourself rest right here. There's nowhere else to be. Thanks, everyone. As Susanna said, I want to talk about joy today. I think it's an important topic. I was reflecting on this a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's especially important to look at joy because with so much chaos and upheaval in the world, with all the difficult emotions that we have experienced and that are still experiencing. There's so much greed and hatred and ignorance and violence and hatred. You know, it's just, I don't have to explain what's been going on and is going on and continues to go on, that sometimes we lose sight of the joy that also exists. And it's very important to look at that and recognize it in our lives. It's easy to skip it. It's easy to push it away. We think we don't have time for it, or we get into this place of thinking, how can I be joyful when there's so much violence and hate and suffering in the world? We get this idea that it's selfish to have joy in our lives. But actually, it's incredibly important to recognize it and cultivate it. Bhikkhu Bodhi, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, this wise teacher, this wise monk, said that it's actually important to regulate despair. It's important to do it, and it's skillful means joy is skillful means to balance this despair that we can so easily fall into. So it's important, and it's joy is very much in the Buddhist texts. Sometimes we forget about that because we're so focused on suffering and recognizing our clinging and our craving, especially coming from the addiction world. And recovery, it is important to see where we're stuck. It is important to see where we get caught up in craving, and because it's been such a huge part of our lives. But it's easy to miss the teachings around joy, and it's one of the 7 factors of awakening, which to me is a clue that it's important. If you need to have joy in order to have liberation, then maybe I need to investigate this in some way, shape, or form. And what joy is, and let me take a step back and say that sometimes joy is some of the words that we use in these teachings, like suffering or joy or other ones that people have mentioned over time, don't land with different people because they have different experiences of the word. Like for me, when I first started hearing suffering, I couldn't relate to it. It's just like, I don't have any suffering in my life. I couldn't equate what I was going through with the word suffering. To me, suffering meant something very different. But when I started hearing things like dissatisfaction, unease, not feeling comfortable in my own skin, that's also dukkha. And I went, oh, I get that. I understand that. So some of the other ways to look at joy are ease or contentment or steadiness or well-being or feeling this sense of being alive and present. So if joy is kind of not resonating with you, think of those things instead. That might be more helpful, more easy to connect with. So in the 7 factors of awakening, when the Buddha talks about joy, it's one of 7 factors. Hello. It starts with mindfulness, paying attention to what's going on. Everything has a foundation of mindfulness. We have to be paying attention. And then there's this factor of investigation, what is going on here? Oh, there's this, I'm caught in craving. And then there's the effort to let go. There's the effort to release. So that's the setup. And when you have been able to release all these things that you're stuck on, release the hindrances, then you make space for the arising of joy and contentment and tranquility and equanimity and steadiness of mind, which is the rest of the factors of awakening. So it's the absence of the hindrances. And when the hindrances are in the text, it says, when the hindrances are subdued, joy arises. And joy is an essential aspect of the teachings. It's absolutely key. And wholesome joy is part of meditation practice. We get this wholesome joy. One very important thing to remember, and this is, I think, where a lot of us get stuck, is recognizing, and in early Buddhist texts, it points this out, that joy and happiness are not dependent on pleasure, are not dependent on having things our way. That's not what this is about. It's not about getting all the prizes. It's about being at ease in spite of what's going on, finding that place of contentment, that place of equanimity where we can land. And there's a joy that arises when we can be, when we're not so stuck on, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way, I want this, we want what we want when we want it. That kind of a hallmark of addiction sometimes is like now. So also in the practices, in the teachings, especially in early Buddhism, when we're able to really be fully mindful and able to release the hindrances, release our craving and our aversion and our restless mind and our worry, and can come into this place of calm, what also arises naturally are the Brahma Viharas, the heart practices, this sense of loving kindness or friendliness, this sense of compassion and joy for the well-being of others. And I want to just read a little part of one of the suttas. This is from one of Bhikkhu Analayo's books. And the sutta says, with a mind of compassion, one pervades all the directions. Our mind is full of compassion, and we look in all directions of the world. And with a mind that is boundless and unlimited, that is without aversion or anger and naturally at ease, being pervaded within by this mind of compassion, one has gained gladness and joy. So when we're able to release our cravings and let go, and we are filled with this kindness and compassion, then the mind is also filled with gladness and joy. So the Buddha points to this all the time. He points to this all the time. And it's really important to take that in. However, it's not always so easy to get there, because so many of us are so conditioned by our experiences. And looking at myself, I had this tendency to be so dismissive. Joy, and I'd be like, whatever, Gratitude, they tell me to be grateful, and I'd be like, for what? Even like walking around and breathing, and I'd be like, so what? It's so dismissive. So some of us need some help to cultivate this joy. It's really important to have this this support as we move in this direction. It doesn't mean because there's something wrong. It just means because we're so entangled in this deep conditioning. We all have experienced such deep conditioning from the world, from our own experiences in addiction, our experiences in recovery, and these ways we have developed to move through the world, mostly as protective mechanisms, which are just totally unskillful and cause so much harm both to ourselves and others. So to support us in getting out of that, it's really important. And I'm gonna, one thing that's been really helpful for me in this, and helpful for a lot of people, some of you know James Barrows. He's a teacher on in Berkeley, California. He teaches at Spirit Rock a lot, and he has taught a course for probably 15 years, maybe longer, called Awakening Joy. And I see Susanna nodding. And he's written a book based on the course. And I've taken the course. I can teach the course. I've been certified to teach the course. And knowing me, it's because the book is called Awakening Joy, 10 Steps That Will Put You on the Road to Real Happiness. And I'm originally a New Yorker. So A, I'm dismissive, and B, I'm like very cynical. And so it's like, yeah, right, 10 steps to whatever. And so, but when I finally looked at it and went through it, it's like, oh, this is actually solid Dharma. It is solid Dharma. And when you look and see that, oh, actually the Buddha points to the importance of joy over and over again, and that's what comes up. And I've done 3 retreats over the last year with Bhikkhu and Alio on the Satipatthana and Anapanasati and emptiness. And joy is such an integral part of all of those teachings. All of those teachings. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll bite. Maybe I'll put my cynicism aside and move into a place of don't know mind, of beginner's mind. You know, oh, maybe I don't have all the answers. I think that's a view that I need to let go of and actually embrace what's present, because that's what this is about, embracing what's present, not what I think is present. Because in joy, there is an authenticity. And the authenticity is this willingness to be fully present. I like to think of it as the undefended heart. I'm willing to put down my walls. I'm willing to be fully present with the reality of the moment, and I'm willing to let go of my fixed ideas. And there's an aliveness in joy. You know, we're awake to the world. And when we are authentic and alive, there's a connection that happens with others. So joy is so absent when we're hiding in our world, trying to protect ourselves from what's happening. When we're lost in our addictions, there's maybe a lot of partying, but that's not the same thing. And so I want to just go through a little bit of what James talks about in Awakening Joy, because it's so helpful. It's so helpful. And the first step is to actually set an intention to be joyful, to have joy in your life, to notice joy. It doesn't even mean that you're going to wake up joyful tomorrow or at ease or whatever. It's like allowing the idea into your awareness. It can be that simple. You start where you are. If this is such a foreign idea to you, just bring the word joy and maybe put it on a Post-it and stick it on the wall and like, joy. Okay. It's that simple. And, you know, intention is one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. We have to incline our mind in the direction we want to walk in. Mind follows mind. If we don't set a direction, we're just aimless. So why not set a direction for joy? And watch what gets in the way. Watch those things that pop up. Watch those impediments. No, I can't, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the story is. The second piece is to be mindful. That's the foundation. That's the foundation of everything we're trying to do. We have to pay attention. We have to be present for our life. We have to recognize the actual experience, being here, being now, and recognize that the present moment is always changing. We might think we might have an experience, and then we just kind of move into that experience and are unaware of the comings and goings, the impermanence of this world. So just be present. I think all the harm I cause in my life, all the harm I have caused in my life is because I haven't been paying attention, and I've been lost in trying to make sure I'm okay, get lost in I, me, and mine. Not that I'm intentionally a horrible person, but I'm just not paying attention and lost in the stories. And so to begin to let go and be present and pay attention. The third step is to cultivate some gratitude. Have you ever done, and I know I'm sure many of you, because it's very popular in the recovery world, is gratitude lists. You know, and as I mentioned before, I was so dismissive of the idea of gratitude. And somebody say, can you be grateful you can breathe? Can you be grateful you can walk? And I'd be like, yeah, but I don't have this, and I don't have that, and I don't have the other thing. I was that focused on glass, not half empty. The glass was broken and there's just nothing in it, you know. So to be willing, this is again our fixed views, our habitual thinking that causes all our suffering, all our discontent. Be willing to let that stuff go and cultivate it. James says that gratitude is the most direct way to access well-being. And we find what we look for. If we are finding things to be grateful for, we can find things to be grateful for. Rick Hansen, who wrote Buddha's Brain, talks about gratitude, and he talks about it from a neuroscientific point of view and how it has an actual beneficial impact on our brain. And so it's important to be grateful. I do a morning meditation every day, 7 days a week. And when I teach my Dharma classes, every time I do a regular 30-minute or so meditation, I end with a moment of gratitude. I offer the opportunity for someone to just think of something in your life you're grateful for. It can be anything, and it's that important to have that. Because there's joy and gratitude are so tied together. So be willing to be grateful. I also heard many years ago, it's gratitude versus grumble. I can grumble about stuff or I can be grateful about stuff. So it's so important. And it's also the bigger concept of how we hold the world. This, you know, holding the world with not this harsh, dark point of view. The next piece is also incredibly important in finding joy in difficult times. As I said, the texts don't remind us that joy is not dependent on outside circumstances. It is a present. It's an internal experience that we have. This ease, this letting go of our agenda. It's this willingness to be with whatever arises. It's this willingness to be present for the praise and the blame, the gain and the loss, the pleasure and the pain. We have everything in our world. And so we don't pick and choose. How do I go, okay, right now it's like this. Right now it's like this. It can't be different from the way it is. So let me let go. And it means to be open to grief and to learn how to be tender with ourselves as well. You know, holding our experience with kindness and compassion, holding the experience of others with kindness and compassion. There can still be that ease that's there. And this next piece, I think, is also incredibly important for people who struggle with addiction or have struggled with addiction. There's the bliss of blamelessness. It's living with integrity. When we don't cause harm, we don't have shame, or we don't have guilt or remorse. There's a joy that can arise when we live in a way that's wise and skillful and doesn't cause harm. When we're aligned with the universe, when we're aligned with the world, when we want to live in harmony with others. Eightfold Path, Sila, wise action, you know, not killing, not causing harm, not taking what's not offered, not being harsh or unkind with our speech, cultivating generosity, cultivating compassion, not just don't doing bad, but moving into a place of cultivating wholesome and generous and kind actions. And to see where you do struggle with that, see where you cause harm. And, you know, I think one of the most important instructions in this practice is, in this broad practice that we do in Buddhism, is to start where you are. You can't start anywhere else. So to see what is causing you difficulties today and address that, that's where you start. I mean, you look at people around you and go, I want that, but it's like, I can't get there without moving from where I am. I can't just leapfrog over. That's the dream, but that ain't going to happen. So the sooner I let go of that dream and instead work with what's present, the better I am. So work with what's causing me, what's challenging me today. For me, I had to work, for one thing, you know, it's like I caused a lot of harm with my sarcasm. And so I had to work a lot at letting that go. That's harsh speech. That's like, oh, I did that again. Oh, difficult to have some ease when there's some remorse about that. So be able to be present, be able to acknowledge what is not wise and skillful, and cultivate what is. And then move into this joy of letting go. Letting go is so important. We let go of craving, we let go of what we want, we let go of wholesome, we let go of unskillful, we let go of skillful, we let go of everything. As I mentioned, I did these retreats with Bhikkhu Analayo, and he said one time, and if you know him, he's a very wise man. He's a scholar. He's written countless books and articles about, he translates from Chinese, from Pali. He speaks multiple languages. And he said, the sum of the Buddha's teachings in English can be summarized in 5 letters. LETGO. Let go. It's when we hold on to anything that we have to keep doing it again and again and again. Be willing to let go. Be willing to let go. It's so important. What are you holding on to? Even the idea of, you know, did that person like me? If I'm late for this party, what will they think of me? Let go of that. I mean, where are you stuck? So this movement towards joy, again, it's solid dharma, continuing to release. Yeah, the book is called Awakening Joy, and I'll state it again later. So the next couple are really important: the joy of loving ourselves and the joy of loving others. This is where the heart practices come in, the loving kindness towards selves, loving kindness and compassion towards others, forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness for others. This is a lot of work of recovery too, because so often we have so much resentment toward ourselves, so much shame. It's so to be willing to let go of the judgment, let go of the critical voices, and instead come into this place of generosity and compassion, generosity of the heart, towards ourselves, towards others. Be willing to be tender, be willing to be compassionate. That can be some of the most challenging work. But I read this in the book, it's being kind to ourselves is a reduction of internal violence. Being harsh with ourselves is being unkind. I had to really work at, and I used the practice of wise speech on that, how I would talk to myself. Mary, you dumb, whatever. I don't do that anymore. I don't call myself stupid anymore. I don't call myself names anymore. That's violence. That's verbal violence. And if I'm committed to wise speech, I can't do that. I have to do that with others too. And let go. And all these practices, this loving ourselves and loving others, unconditional. I don't have to show up. You don't have to behave a certain way for me to care about you. Doesn't mean you're not held accountable. We're not held accountable for our actions. Very important point. But it means that we um, don't shut off love and compassion for anyone. That's another 14 talks right there. And then the last, or the next two, compassion also. Be willing to have this compassion as, again, the sweetness of loving ourselves, the joy of loving others, the cultivation of compassion. So important, these heart practices. Once the hindrances are dispersed, then the heart practices have space to grow, you know? And then the last one is just this joy of being. Just be. Just be. Relax the mind. Meditation and awareness. You know, move towards this place of equanimity. Let go of how we need things to be. Recognize the interconnection with all beings. Again, going back to that place of authenticity, of just being, not being something. Let go of the who am I, me, my. Just be present, just be open to what is. And when you do, recognize the joy when it's there. Recognize it. We skip over it so often, or we're not aware of it. When the mind is calm, what's the experience you're having in that moment? What's that experience like? It's so beneficial. And I say, you know, joy is always available. I remember many, many years ago, 30 years ago, my brother passed away. And in the morning, we were at the funeral, and of course, very sad, and there was a lot of grief. But just a few hours later, we were sitting in the yard and back of his house with his wife and his children, and we were laughing and telling stories. And I thought, I saw that, and I went, am I a bad sister because I'm having this experience of joy? And it's no, we have to be present. If the joy is there, we cannot deny it. We can't judge. This is not appropriate. There's so much crap going on in the world right now. But you hear people, a lot of people who are oppressed, don't take away my joy. I have joy, you know? We can't deny joy for others or ourselves. There's stuff going on in my life, but there's still joy too. Doesn't mean I'm ignoring the world, but I'm fully a part of it. Present for the ease and the calm that's right here, right now. It's here. Be with it. And redefine your definition of joy as well. And, just finding that ease, that sense of, I don't need it to be anything. Just let go. So thank you, my friends, for your kind attention. And now I am happy to answer any questions. I saw that someone put the link for the book in the chat, so that's great. Thank you for doing that. It's really, really a lovely, lovely book. James is a lovely, lovely man, and it's solid Dharma. So anyway, any questions or thoughts or comments or rebuttals?
Actually, I'm going to say at this point, thank you, Mary, for the talk. I understand. I'm so grateful that I've been able to have you. We have been able to have you here in Finland, and being able to listen to you now. Your talk was so beautiful. Thank you. And also, James comes here every summer, so I've been sitting with him as well. So thanks for introducing the book, and thanks for the talk. It was very inspirational and very touching as well. And people, if you have questions, you can use the raise hand option or put your questions to the chat. And since there's nothing there yet, I do have a question for you, because when you were talking about gratitude and stuff like that, when you first heard it, your initial reaction was like, ooh, something like this. And what people many times ask is that, am I going to lose my edge if I focus on positivity and joy? So what would you say to anybody who is, struggling with that question?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that's important because I think Buddhists have the idea that, or people have the idea that Buddhists melt into this place of whatever, but no, it's a place of holding people accountable. So um I still have, and I don't necessarily think it's an edge, but I have really clarity, a lot of clarity around the causes of injustice and the causes of suffering. And I see, and I can work towards them. I could work towards, and I try my best working towards ending injustice, working towards ending suffering wherever I see it. But I don't have to pick up a mantle of anger, or I can recognize anger, but I don't let it control me. There's anger around injustice. There's all those things. Absolutely. There can be rage, but I'm not consumed by it because I have this awareness of it. And a couple of years ago, I remember I had this lump of anger just sitting in my chest for months, but I still had joy. I still had ease. I just said, wow, that anger is still here. It's just not running me anymore because there's this clarity, there's this awareness. So there's not letting people get away with stuff, but I don't have to be an asshole about it anymore. I can be wise and skillful in how I approach things. And I actually think I have my edge is much more skillful than one that is overcome and run by reactivity and emotion. Not that I'm a robot or an automaton, but that I can just behave in a way that's much more skillful and wise and doesn't cause more harm than it's trying to address. So did that answer? Yeah.
Yes, thanks for that skillful edge. I
Skillful
like the
edge.
term.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you see Scott has asked the question in there. What would be some examples of holding someone in kindness and compassion if someone is suffering themselves and spewing that into my personal space?
Oh, they're spewing their, yeah. Well, there's a lovely phrase, forgive the actor, not the action. So I am not, I believe we're all conditioned people. We've all have our reasons for what we do. As I said, the harm I caused was because of my conditioning and not being aware. And so these people are conditioned in whatever ways, but they don't get to take it out on others. They don't get to cause harm. So I have compassion for whatever their suffering is, but they don't get to do it. They don't, what is it? I can invite you into my heart, but not into my home. And if it's, if I need to cut them out of my life, I have done that. I said, I love you and I'm never going to see you again because you're not taking care of what needs to happen. It's like people who are in active addiction and it's like, I love you. I wish the best for you, but you can't be here. You have to go over there. If that's the appropriate response for you, that's equanimity. The heart practices, the phrases around equanimity are, your happiness depends on your actions, not on my wishes for you. And sometimes it can feel cold, but we have to watch where our attachment is to wanting other people to be a certain way, because then we're caught in craving, a different kind of craving, but it's still craving. And it's like, I love you. I want your suffering to end and whatever. So, yeah, thank you. I think there was
Yeah, there
something.
was Will was asking about who was Bhikkhu who talked about let go. Was it Bodhi Bhikkhu? Bhikkhu Bodhi?
Bhikkhu Analio.
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 So I guess it's like that.
Analayo.
Ah,
Yeah. You're
yeah.
also
And then,
Equanimity.
yeah, yeah, there
Anally.
you can see it. Yeah. So we have then from Sila Siri, thank you, Mary. I recognized in that moment that you proposed asking the question, joy, what is that? That recognizing and experiencing joy, even trying to describe it, is a perfect way to recognize impermanence, insubstantiality, and dukkha. My definition or description of or aspiration for joy is never the same from moment to moment. I can be curious about its dynamic nature, and that's exciting.
That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah.
And now we have one more message. Willie saying thanks. But we are about 5 to. If there is one more question, we have time for that. Okay, nothing seems to come up.
Then can I say one more thing?
Yes, you can.
Don't miss the joy. Find the joy in your life today. Don't miss it. It's there. Even if it's just birdsong at this time of year. Whatever, just find some joy and take a few seconds to be with it and feel it in your body. What does it feel like in your body? So you learn to recognize it when it's there. So thank you, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. And then some other offerings by Mary. I posted 4 different websites to the chat. Do you have any retreats coming up? You have some meditation classes, morning meditations, and stuff like that. Do you have any retreats maybe?
I don't have a long retreat. I have a half day on, is that online? I know I think it's in person. I can't remember. Yeah, I teach a couple of times a week, and everything's on my website.
Yeah.
So yeah, the info is all on that, and that would be the best place. That's always up to date. So
Yes, thank you. And we will keep the the meeting open few minutes after, so you can copy the links if anybody who wants to copy them. And also if you want to ask some other questions about resources. But now a few words about Dana. Again, your generosity can help to strengthen the recovery community and the growth academy, and can be a practical expression of gratitude and metta, that is loving kindness. We invite you to practice generosity and to give Dana in support of these teachings, to be shared with our teacher and with the Buddhist Recovery Network. There is a link in the chat that will take you to the BRN Buddhist Recovery Network website, and please indicate that your gift is for the Academy. And then also there's going to be a link for our podcasts, and our next BRN Academy event is Sunday, June 5th, with Galen Ferguson. And then there is also June 6th, sorry. There is also a Facebook group that we have. I will post a link to the chat now as well. And when you come to the group, please answer the questions, because that is how we take people in, that you have answered the membership questions. Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining us today. And may the merit gained benefit all living beings. May we all be well, happy, and peaceful.